Have you ever heard of someone living a complete double life? Not like a spy in a movie, but something maybe even more remarkable. Today we're talking about a man who splits his time between two worlds that couldn't seem further apart.
Okay, just look at this. On one side, you have Ricker Choi, the financial risk consultant. His world is all about data, analytics, corporate systems, very left brain, right? But then, on the other side, you have Ricker Choi, the pianist and artivist. His world is music, paint, raw emotion, and political activism. So how does one person bridge that gap? How do you go from a spreadsheet to a protest anthem? Well, let's get into it.
So, first things first. Long before his activism kicked into high gear, Choi was already making a name for himself. And I'm not just talking about a guy who played piano on the weekends. He was an incredibly accomplished musician, proving that the word amateur can be seriously misleading.
Just take a look at this timeline. This is some serious dedication. First prize in Washington, second in Berlin, third in Paris. I mean, he was traveling the globe, competing in these prestigious international competitions for amateur pianists, and winning. So this was way more than a casual hobby. This was a high-level passion he was excelling at. And his music always seemed to have a purpose behind it. Even before all the political events, he was using his gift to give back to the community. He was organizing these Music Heals charity concerts, raising money for great causes like the Sick Kids Foundation. So that idea of music being a tool for good, that was already there. All right, so we've got this picture of an award-winning pianist who uses his talent for charity. Then, 2019 happened. And for Choi, events that were unfolding back in Hong Kong, the city where he was born, changed absolutely everything. And what's really interesting is that Choi is totally open about this. He actually describes himself as having been politically indifferent before 2019. I mean, think about it. He moved to Canada when he was just 13 years old. So for decades, he felt completely disconnected, totally out of touch with what was going on in his birthplace. And then came the moment that shattered that indifference. July 21st, 2019. You might remember the images from the 7/21 UN Long incident, the mob attacking protesters and everyday commuters in the train station. For Choi, watching that all the way from Toronto, it was a profound shock. It was the turning point. In his own words, he was watching the city he knew, a place with rule of law and freedom, transform right before his eyes. And that feeling, he said, is what triggered him. So what was his first response? He picked up a paintbrush and channeled all that shock and sadness onto a canvas. Then, a little over a month later, another spark lit the fuse. After another major incident on August 31st, a new song started spreading like wildfire online, Glory to Hong Kong. It became the unofficial anthem of the protests. For a musician like Choi, hearing this was the ultimate inspiration. It's what made him turn back to his primary talent, the piano, to find his own voice in all of this. So, with this new fire lit under him, his artistic output just exploded. He transformed from being that award-winning amateur pianist into a full-blown, prolific artivist. And his response was both incredibly passionate and pretty methodical. First, he just painted and painted. He ended up creating over 100 different works that essentially became a visual diary of the protests. Then, he sat down and composed his signature musical piece, the Hong Kong Rhapsody. And with that, he fully stepped into this new role as an artivist. And people noticed. Big time. The Hong Kong Rhapsody, which is this incredible 13-minute piece that weaves together different protest melodies, it just blew up online. We're talking over 500,000 views on YouTube alone. Clearly, it struck a major chord. But this wasn't just about getting views and likes. His art had a very real, tangible impact. By selling prints of his paintings, Choi raised over 140,000 Canadian dollars, and he donated that money to organizations that were helping Hong Kongers, whether it was with legal aid or seeking asylum abroad. Of course, anytime art wades into politics, it's gonna make waves, and Choi's work was no exception. It was met with both incredibly passionate support and some really fierce condemnation. And Choi himself? He didn't back down an inch. In fact, he doubled down. After the protest anthem Glory to Hong Kong was banned, he was filmed in the UK leading a choir of over 100 people singing it. His philosophy was simple and defiant. If they try to ban a song, your only response is to sing it even louder. So you end up with this really stark divide in how people see his work. For his supporters, he's like a cultural historian, using his art to preserve the memory of a movement and connect the global Hong Kong diaspora. But for his critics, his work is vulgar, and they've even called it illegal Hong Kong independence art. The two viewpoints couldn't be farther apart.
So let's peel back the layers of politics and controversy for a second, because underneath all of this, something deeply personal was happening for Choi. This entire journey was also about him reconnecting with a part of his identity he thought he'd left behind decades ago. I mean, just try to imagine it. He'd been away from Hong Kong for over 30 years. He felt so disconnected he had to actually learn the modern vocabulary of the movement, all these terms that simply didn't exist in the city he grew up in. He has said that this entire process, this artistic awakening, is what helped him truly rediscover his identity as a Hong Konger. And really, his story leaves us with this huge, powerful question. In situations where history itself is contested, where one side's official narrative is completely at odds with another's lived experience, what is the role of the artist? Can a painting or a piece of music become more than just art? Can it become an act of resistance, a way of preserving memory? When you look at the whole picture, Ricker Choi's journey is this incredible story of transformation. From a musician who was, by his own account, politically indifferent, to a dedicated artivist whose work has been seen by hundreds of thousands. It's a powerful example of how a personal talent, honed for years in concert halls, can suddenly find a new, urgent purpose on the world stage, becoming a vessel for identity, a chronicle of history, and a voice for the voiceless.